Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today in this video we are going to create this fully functional to-do app in Rails. So this is how the application looks like. We can add our new to-do. We can mark if our to-do is completed or not. Okay, see, our to-do has been created. Similarly, we can edit our to-do. Let's mark this to-do and update it. So if to-do is completed, then we can add this CSS. If not, then it is not adding any CSS, and then we can also delete this to-do. Alright, so we will be creating this application in this video. So now let's get started and let's install RVM, Ruby and Rails in Ubuntu. We'll be installing Ruby by using RVM. RVM stands for Ruby Version Manager. The official site for RVM is this, rvm.io. So RVM is a command line tool which allows you to easily install, manage and work with multiple Ruby environments. Alright, so RVM is used to install Ruby, and we can install different versions of Ruby by using RVM, and we can also switch between those different versions. Okay, so that are the use cases of RVM. Now you can follow this URL in order to install RVM on Ubuntu. The first step you need to do is you need to install GPT keys in order to verify installation package. So you can simply copy this command and paste it in your terminal. So I have already installed RVM, Ruby and Rails in my system, so I won't be reinstalling them. The first step for you will be using this command, okay, which will install some keys in your system. Then after, you can use this command in order to install RVM. Alright, once those two steps are done, you can check for RVM version by using this command. So in my case the version is 1.29.10. okay, now RVM has been installed. Now let's install Ruby by using RVM. Okay, so the command is RVM install Ruby, and we can give some specific version. So we'll be installing Ruby 2.4.0. all right, once this is done, then it will be installing version 2.4.0 Ruby in your system. Then after that, you can check if it is installed or not by using this command. Then you should also see this result. All right, you can also verify it by going into IRB. So by using IRB, we can simply write Ruby code in this terminal. All right, puts hello world. Okay, we can also do some mathematical operations. See, now we are sure that Ruby has been installed on our system. Now let's install Rails. So the command is gem install Rails followed by the version. Okay, so in this project we will be using Rails version 5.2.4. all right, so I suggest you to install Ruby version 2.4.0 and Rails version 5.2.4. okay, because we'll be using this version on this project. If you want to see some other official release of Ruby and Rails, then you can follow these URLs. So this URL has all the official release of Ruby. all right, official release versions of Ruby, and this URL has all official release versions of Rails. all right, I will add all these links in description. If you got any problem while installing, then you can simply search for your error in Google. all right, if you are able to find your solution, then it's good. If not, then you can add your problems in comment. I will try to reply them as soon as I can. Now let's start our application. Now let's create our first new Rails application. Okay, so the command is Rails underscore 5.2.4. so this is the version of Rails we'll be using. New and we'll provide name of our application here. So the name of our application is todo underscore application, and we'll be providing database for it too. Database equals GRESQL. So by default Rails provides SQLite database, alright, but we won't be using that. We will be using PostgreSQL database. Now let's run this and create our first new Rails application. Okay, so it might take a while. So yeah, it is completed. Now let's go inside that folder, cd. Now let's open this in our code editor. I'll be using VS Code, alright. So it is the shortcut for opening our code editor. So yeah, if you go to the structure of our code, then you can see your app folder. Inside app folder you can see controllers, controllers, models and views. Okay, then inside config folder you can see this routes.rb, and then if you go inside this gem file, then you can see that it's using Ruby version 2.4.0 and Rails version 5.2.4. alright. So yeah, you will get used to with all these files after you go through them properly. Alright, now let's run our server. So the command is bundle xcc rails yes. Okay, you can use Rails server, or you can simply do Rails yes. Okay, so our server is started. It runs on localhost 3000. Okay, localhost 3000. Yeah, it's giving us error. It says database todo underscore application underscore development does not exist. Okay, now let's fix this. We can fix this by using Rails db create. This command is used to create database. Now let's run our server again. Yeah, so our server is started. Okay, here you can see it in console too. If you go inside this file application.html.erb, see, this is the syntax for ERB. Okay, so ERB file is HTML with Ruby code embedded in it. Alright, so this is how ERB file looks like. But I won't be using ERB. Instead I'll be using HAML. The main use of HAML is to make code look better. So in order to use HAML, we can simply do gem HAML. Alright, and now let's run bundle install. So it will install HAML in our system or in our project. You can also check for you can also confirm if HAML is installed or not by using this command bundle show HAML. Alright, so it says HAML 5.1.2 has been installed. Now let's go inside our routes file and let's create our root page at first. Root to Todo's index. So I'll come back to this line after a while. Okay, so basically this is the name of our controller and this is the name of our index. Okay, now let's go inside our controller and create our Todo's controller. New file, Todo's controller.rb. so rb is extension for Ruby. Okay, and then let's write some code inside this controller, Todo's controller, and it inherits from application controller. And as I said that Todo's controller have index action, so let's create this index action too. And now let's go inside our views and let's create new folder called to-dos, and then inside here let's create file called index.haml, index.haml. Okay, now let's write hello there. Now if I go inside terminal and if I run my server, then I should see this hello world or hello there. If I refresh this, then see, so our this root page is working fine. Now we need to work on some other actions too. Now we'll be working with models. So for that let's go in the models folder and let's create new file called todo.rb. okay, so let's write some code inside this file, class todo, and it will inherit from application record. Okay, so this is our model, this is our todo model. Here I have made one mistake, this R should be capital. Now it's okay. Now the next step is to work with the database. Alright, so let's create one migration file. Rels generate migration, create to-dos. If I press enter, then I should see the new migration file. Now let's go inside this migration file. This migration is created inside this folder, inside db migrate and see. This is our new migration file, and we'll be adding two different fields in our application. The first is name and the second is one boolean field. We'll be using that boolean field for checkbox to mark if our to-do is completed or not. So let's add those two fields here. t.string name and t.boolean completed, and by default let's set this value to be false. Okay, default is false. Now this is just the migration file. In order to update database with these things, alright, we need to run this command, rels db migrate. So it's showing an error. Oh, it should be string. It's a typo. Yeah. Now let's run this again. So yeah, now our schema has been updated too. Okay, now we are all ready to work with database in our application. Now let's go inside console and see how we can play with database. Okay, so the command to go inside console is this, rels console or simply rel c. Now we can do this, we can perform these operations. todo.count, it's 0. Okay, now let's create our first to do, create name, start coding in rels. See, so this is our first to do. If I do todo.count, then it says 1. We can also do todo.first. Here the value for completed is false because yeah, the default value is false for this to do. Okay, so that's the reason. Let's create another todo.create. Let's name this start singing. Completed for this will be true. Okay, see, now we can do todo.count. Okay, we can perform many operations like this, todo.first and then todo.last. Okay, and then we can also do todo.all to get all data of the database. Now let's set this todo.first with t variable So T is holding this todo.first. Okay, now let's update this table. Let's update this record. Okay, todo dot update attributes. So this is how we update in Rails. All right, let's update this boolean field. Okay, cmp completed. Let's set completed to be true. Okay, see, now if we see the value of T, then it says completed is true. So that's how we perform database operations, okay, using console. And now let's understand how routing is done in Rails. So for that, let's go inside this config folder. Inside here you can see this routes.rb. Let's go inside this file. All right, here previously I have added this root route. Now let's create one route which is used to perform all those CRUD operations. Okay, so for that we'll be using resources and to-dos. So let me show you what this actually does. So for that, let's go inside terminal and let's run Rails routes. So this has generated these routes for us. Here you can see that this is the root path. Okay, this is the root path, and these extra routes has been created by this one single resources. So that's how we work with routing in Rails. Okay, here you can see that for index the route is this /todos, and for new it is todos/new. All right, so I will explain how all these routes will be performed later, and you can ignore these routes. All right, these are auto generated. We will remove these routes. We won't be needing we won't work with these routes, so only let's focus on these routes. Okay, now let's go inside our controller and add some new actions. Okay, so this is our new action. The name is new. So for that so for this method, let's go inside the view and let's create one new YAML file called new.yaml. I am a new page. See, so this is our root path, okay, which comes from this index.yaml file. Hello there. And in order to go to this new action, here you can see that the route for this new is this, okay, /todos/new. So that's the route. So let's go inside that path, /todos and then new. See, here you can see that the new page content has been displayed, which comes from this file. All right, now we'll be installing bootstrap in our application, so let's install it. Now in order to install bootstrap, let's go inside this this website. Okay, so let's read this documentation. Here it says we need to add this gem of bootstrap in our file. Let's copy this and add in our project. So let's go inside gem file and add this gem. Now after adding this, we need to run bundle install, which installs this bootstrap gem for us. So it's downloading all the required dependency for bootstrap. Then after, the next step is to import bootstrap styles in this file. Okay, so let's copy this line and let's add it in application.scss file. Application.css. By default the file looks like this. Now let's rename this application.scss and let's import this bootstrap file here. All right, now the next step is Now the next step is to add this jQuery Rails gem to gem file. So let's add it to, and let's run bundle install again. So it's completed. Now let's go inside this application.js file and include these lines. Application.js and include these lines. Okay. Now let's restart our server and see if Bootstrap is working or not. Now I'm going to refresh this page. You should see change in this file, in this line. See, now Bootstrap has been installed. Alright, so that's how we install Bootstrap in our Rails application. Now we are able to use all the classes of Bootstrap. Now we will be working with this index and new methods. Okay, now let's work with index. So let's create this instance variable called to-dos, which list all the to-dos. Okay, so to-dos equals to-do.all, and let's go inside this index view and remove this, and let's write one loop, to-dos dot each do to-do. So that's how the HAML syntax looks like. To-do dot name, and then after to-do dot completed. If I refresh this page, then we got error, because here I am using to-dos and here I have defined to-dos. Okay, so that's mistake. So this should be made to-dos. Sorry, this should be made to-dos. Now let's refresh this again. So that error is gone, but our to-dos has been displayed, but it's not displayed in the correct order. So br, and then after br again. So yeah, now our to-dos has been displayed. Now let's work on our new form. Okay, so it's to-dos / new. Let's work on this page. Okay, so for that we have to go inside our controller, and we need to write to-do equals to-do.new, and let's create another action called create. And inside create we need to write this line of code, to-do.new, and we have to pass our params here, to-do underscore params. We'll be using these params, and let's use respond to do format, and if to-do.save, then we will be redirecting to root path. We'll be adding this else condition here after some time. Okay, for now let's leave it in this if condition. And now we have to create one private method here called we'll name this same to-do underscore params method. Okay, we'll be using this same method, and here we have to use strong params. Params dot require to-do dot permit, and we'll be adding our fields here, which is name and completed. So this name and completed, these are our strong params. Okay, now it's done. Now let's work with this new view. form with model and to do. This to do comes from here. Okay, this to do comes from here, and then after do, then form. Here we are creating our new form for adding new to do, and these are the bootstrap classes. All right, call md6, and we'll be using form dash group class. Then after form dot label, name, form dot text field, name, and we'll be adding to this form field class. The class is form control. Then after let's create another column 2. Form dot label, we don't need this, completed, and then after I made mistake here, so it should be form dot label. Yeah, form dot label. Yeah, and then after form dot checkbox. Okay, since this completed is it will be checkbox. Okay, completed. Yeah, now let's go inside our browser and see what we will see. So we got error. The error says, oh, I made mistake here, so it should be form dot text field. Okay, now let's refresh this again. Okay, it's the same error, and let's refresh this. Now that error is gone. Here you can see the new form has been added. It's not aligning to the same line, so let's use this PR tag here. Let's refresh this again. Okay, now we need to add one submit button here, so let's work on that. Form dash group, then after form dot submit, and the name of our button will be create to do, and then we will be adding class for this, which will be button dash primary. Now let's refresh this. We should see the new button here. Okay, the create button here. Now let's add our to do. This is a new to do. Let's mark this completed, create it. Okay, why so this is redirecting to this root path, because here in controller we are adding condition that if to do dot save is true, then it should redirect to root path. Okay, now let's go inside our console and see if the new to do has been added or not. See, so this is the new to do and completed is true, so it is added. So our this to do form looks like this at this moment, but we'll work on styling it more. Okay, now let's work with our edit method. Right, so now let's create this view for edit called edit.haml, edit page. If you go and see the routes for edit, grep edit. Alright, so this searches the path for edit. Okay, this grep is used to search. Now the path is this: to do's followed with id and then edit. Let's go inside console and see what do we have the id of our last to do. So it's 6, so it will be to do's 6 / edit. To do 6 / edit. Alright, so this is our edit page. Now let's work on this edit action. So for this edit page will have the same form of like this new form, okay? Only the difference will be here, update to do, the name of our button. Alright, let's refresh this, see. And now let's work on the update action. Now we have to write some code inside this edit action at first, okay? So to do equals to do dot find params of id, and then after let's create one. If I refresh this page, then see, now it's getting the value of this to do with id 6, okay? Now we have to work on this update to do action. So for that, let's create one new action called update. Def update, and here we need to find this to do. Then after we need to write some code. Respond to do format. If to do dot save, then we can simply copy this line, okay? To do dot save, then redirect to root path and end. Okay, now this edit should work. Let's refresh this and let's edit this. If I go to this page, okay, to do's, so this is not working still. Let's see what mistake is it there. So in the update action, here I am using the save method. Here it should be this update, and then we should use these two params here, okay? Now let's refresh this and see if it works. Edit is working. Let's update this. Yeah, it's working now. Let's go inside our console, say to dot last. So it's working, okay? So now our edit method is working. Edit and update methods are working. Now let's understand how debugging can be done in Rails. So there is a gem called pry, so we'll be installing that gem. Gem pry. Let's start the server and run bundle install. So this pry gem is used for debugging purpose, and the way for using is by using this binding.pry. Now let's refresh this, or like let's use this binding.pry in our edit action. Now if I refresh this, then it should get inside our debugger. See, now it's going inside our debugger, then we can debug our code, okay? So that's how debugging is done in Rails. Now let's work on styling our this index page or this root page. so which is this index.haml file. So let's delete this, let's comment this for the time being. Alright, now I'll be using bootstrap classes, container class, and then after call lg12 row todos dot each do to do, then after call lg4. Inside this, let's display the name of our to do. In the next column, let's add condition. If to do dot completed is equals true, then let's print completed, else not completed. Then after, in the next column, we will be adding the link to edit those to-dos. So the path for edit is this: edit to-do path followed by to-do. Let's add class, just button, and we will also add a link to create the new to-do. Add new to-do. The path for new is this new to-do path. We will add btn-success. Now let's see what our page looks in the browser. So yeah, it's looking like this. Let's delete these commented codes and add container fluid instead of this container. Let's refresh this. Yeah, so it's looking like this. Now let's see if this edit buttons work or not. Okay, so I'll be editing this to do. Let's set the completed to be true, update to do, and completed is true. Edit completed, not completed, it's working. And let's see if this title or this name is working or not. Edit, this is an updated to do. Update it, yeah, it's working. Now let's add the new to do. Go to bed, create, go to bed, not completed, edit. Yeah, so it's all working fine. Now let's add CSS for these completed to dos. Okay, I want to add CSS for these completed to dos. So let's go here and add condition. Let's add style. If to do dot completed, then we will be adding text decoration line through. We'll be adding this text decoration called line through. If not, nothing. Okay, let's see what it does. Let's refresh this. So see, it's adding this CSS. Okay, because these two to-dos are completed. Since these are not completed, then it's not adding anything. If I edit this and mark as completed, this go to bed to do, then it's adding this CSS. Now let's work on adding this delete link in this home page. So for that, let's go inside our controller and let's write one method called destroy, and here we need to find to do with parents ID. Then after we need to add condition if add todo.destroy, then respond to do format, then after format.html, and then redirect to root path. So after deleting, it will redirect to the root path. Okay, now we need to add one link here called delete, called lg4 link to delete, then after the path for delete is this todo underscore path, and then todo. The method will be delete, then after let's add this to data confirm. I'll show you what this does in a bit. Okay, are you sure? Data is are you sure? Alright, then after we'll be adding class of btn. Let's refresh this and see what it looks like. Oh, so it's breaking because because of this the error is because of this bootstrap. So let's fix this. So 4 columns with each 3 grids. So yeah, it should work now. Okay, it's working. Now let's delete this start singing todo. Alright, let's delete this. Okay, oh yeah, so it's deleted. So that's how delete works. Okay, and see, it asks for us if we are sure or not. If we are sure or not, if we are sure, then we can press OK. If not, then cancel. So that's the use case of this. So that's how delete is done. Okay, now let's add one heading in this page. So I'll give it a class name called header, then s3. Let's write something here. What's your to-do list for today? And I'll be creating one file in this style sheets folder called style.css.scss, and let's add some css for this header class. Let's refresh this. So yeah, so this is how the application looks like. So this is how we can perform CRUD operations in Rails. So that's it for today, guys. If you liked my content, then don't forget to like this video and please subscribe my channel. I'll see you on next video.